Hello guys and welcome to my patch 10.21 rundown. System changes. We changed the shop odds at the start of Fates in order to make rolling in the shop feel more diverse, valuable and fun, which it did. Fortunately, this change also had a few other side effects we weren't happy with. First, the frequency and ease of achieving 3-star units, especially when enemy chosen, was too high across the board. Just like the last patch, we really want to avoid needing to tune down 3-star power and excitement, so we're targeting their frequency instead. Additionally, for players who really understood the new shop rule, it became optimal to purposely not buy or speculate on units outside their current game plan. This made interesting pivots no longer as viable and limited the broader gameplay experience. Shop change was pretty controversial change in set 4, where if you bought a champ, it could appear next door. If you didn't buy one, it could not appear in your next shop. Personally, I liked this change as long as it would only affect when you press D, so actual rolls and not like natural shops. I think natural shops should not be affected by this change, but it was, which made the early game a lot more boring, because people would just not pick up any of the bad units ever in order just to try and get the better ones. If they made a change for it to only affect actual rerolls, it would probably be the best of both worlds, but for now they're just taking it down completely. So we'll see if it comes back in the future at some point in a different way, but I think that it was very good that they tried this at least, because it was a very good mechanic in Dota auto chess, which TFT is based on. I hope they can find a better solution in the future, because it was very nice to be able to feel like your gold was like worth more. You could actually hit things when you roll for them. They modified the chosen appearance rate to reduce some of the worst luck cases and streakiness. I'm not sure exactly what this means. Reduce some of the worst luck cases. Maybe there's like a pity system in place now where you'll just find one if you haven't found any in a while. You know, like in a gacha game where you haven't found a legendary in a while, you'll just find one in the next one. You're now guaranteed to see at least one chosen by 2-2. Okay. I'm not sure what to think of this. I would rather have it been 2-3. And my reasoning is that you'll natural to level 4 at 2-3, right? So you'll have a way higher chance of finding a 2-cost chosen. The fact that you're guaranteed to see one by 2-2 now will make people level up at 2-1 more often, which I don't like. And it's gonna make people stronger in the early game, which punishes people that want to lose streak. This is probably a bad change. If it was 2-3, I would be pretty happy, actually. Traits, general balance. So they're nerfing shades. So currently how shades work is they auto once and nothing happens. On the second auto, after hitting the second auto, they stealth. And then the third auto is empowered. So now what they're doing is they're doing 3 unempowered autos, and then the fourth one is empowered. So they stealth after the third, and then the fourth is empowered. See a little bit of quite big of a buff to Adept actually. Especially like 3 Adept. Or 4 Adept, sorry. With I guess Yone, Shen, Aurelia and the chosen Adept. 7 seconds is a super long time. So okay, that was quite underwhelming in most situations, because a lot of people ran QSS anyway, so it didn't really do much. So I think this change is okay. Hunter bonus damage is just slightly nerfed at 2 Hunter and buffed at 4 or 5. Obviously this is overall just a nerf to 2 Hunter and Hunter in general. Nobody would ever really take more than 2 Hunters if they could. Moonlight 5 now exists, stars up the lowest 2 champions. So with the chosen Moonlight and 4 3-stars, you can now have 2 4-stars. Which could open up some interesting builds. With like, for example, 4-star both Diana and Aphelios, which are the most common ones. A little bit of a buff to Mystic. Mystic 246. 6 actually get the biggest buff. 200 magic resist now. Ninja 4 got buffed a bit, 30 more AD and AP. That is so much. Think about it, just how much value that is. 150 AD and AP, that is so much. I can't imagine ninjas being bad with just that much raw value. So maybe we'll see ninjas pop off. Alright, this is the shade change I talked about. They upped the bonus damage a bit to compensate for the nerf. Vanguard 8 now exists, which gives 1500 armor. I mean, I guess if you really hate Zed players, you just go 8 Vanguards. Any pure physical damage team, which probably just doesn't really exist in this patch. The only matchups where you'd really want 6 Vanguard in the past were Aphelios and Zed anyways. But those probably won't really get played that much this patch. We'll see though. Cultist. We want to smooth out the Cultist power curve, as currently the trait provides a large spike in one stage and then falls off significantly the following. Upgrading the cultist units will help Galio scale into the next every game, maintaining the big spike that comes playing 6 or 9. This change also makes that playing 4 or 5 cultists, while not optimal, is not totally and completely pointless. Each star level of your cultist will grant Galio 12% bonus health and attack damage. So, just fielding 3 1-star cultists now in the early game will just be bad probably, because it will only have 1360 health and like, what is it, like something like 110 AD. But it looks like it's definitely gonna scale up the more star levels you get. So maybe we could see something like reroll cultist being a thing, which is kind of interesting. If you have a cultist, a bunch of 3-star cultists, like 6 cultists, and a bunch of them are 3-starred, you could actually have a pretty strong team. Alright, Divine. Upon attacking 6 times or dropping below 50% health, Divine units remove all crowd control and ascend, taking 50% reduced damage and dealing 50% bonus true damage for the duration of the ascension. So personally, I think this is one of the biggest changes in this patch. I think Divine is going to be kind of broken if you stack them. So it's a big nerf to 2 Divines. So example like a Donkey Kong build or a Jax carry build in duelists that just want 2 Divines above their unit for the whole fight. It's a huge nerf, but it's a massive buff for 6 and 8 Divines, and even for 4 probably. So now you'll probably just end up stacking as many Divines as possible. Because imagine your unit just taking half health and dealing 50% bonus true damage for 10 seconds. That is basically the entire duration of the fight at that point. And they also remove all crowd control, right? Which is crazy. Like, removing all crowd control in a Sejuani and crowd control heavy meta is just insane. It's so good. I can see 6 Divine builds being meta. Or more. 8 Divines. Like, Divine Spat is gonna be ridiculous. Imagine giving any unit that you want 50% reduced damage and 50% bonus true damage. And immunity to CC. Dude, how broken is that? Actually, probably the most broken spat now. Okay, so Fortune gets a little bit of a nerf across the board, I think. Except 6 Fortune gets a little bit of a buff. Actually, lower chance of 5 cost, which is actually a nerf. That was one of the best parts about it. Tier 1 changes. Diana getting a little bit of nerf on 4-star. 10% nerf. I mean, probably won't do that much to her viability, but it's still quite a bit. Elise 3 getting buffed. I mean, I don't think this really changes anything. Nidalee, Javelin toss damage bonus per hex 10 to 20%. That's actually a pretty significant change. Because imagine a unit's gonna be 5 hexes away. By the way, she always throws it to the furthest target. So you could imagine a unit being 5 hexes away, getting hit. That's 50% more damage. More base damage, sorry. That's quite significant, I'd say. So maybe Nidalee isn't completely ass now. She's, I think, one of the worst 1 costs. She's just there for like sharpshooter with Vayne at the moment. So this will help her out a little bit. Alright, tier 2, big change. Aphelios turrets now stop firing when Aphelios is disabled. This is one of the changes that me and a lot of the other high elo players were asking Riot for since the PBE. Because he has a very unhealthy interaction with Guardian Angel, for example. Where if he gets killed and he's reviving in GA, his turrets are still firing. Which basically made him almost impossible to counter. So the fact that this is gone now, this is big. They obviously have to buff Aphelios as well to compensate, I think. Because as it stands, maybe Aphelios is going to be really bad. We'll see though. There's some other changes in this patch that might enable him a little bit, like the static shift change. So we'll talk about those item changes later. The Jarvan 3 getting a bit of a buff. I mean, this just does literally nothing. Jax getting nerfed a little bit on his consecutive ultis. Again, I don't think this really changes much. Teemo getting a really big buff, actually. This is a 50% increase in damage across the board at every star level. I think Teemo might be super good now, actually. Hold up. That is so much damage. Also 900 damage on a 3-star Teemo. Keep in mind that he has an AoE spell that also bounces because of Sharpshooter. And fires at the highest attack speed target, which is usually the enemy carry, right? When he dies, the dot disappears. I don't know, we'll see about that. Also here, Cannon 3 getting a bit of a buff. Pretty much a 50% increase in damage for Cannon 3. Also Ninja 4 buff. So basically if you have Cannon 3 and 4 ninjas, this ult is going to deal a base damage of 3000. Just kinda crazy. We'll see. It's gonna be harder to get any 3-stars anyway, right? Because of the role change. But yeah, Cannon 3 gonna clap. That's for sure. So Veigar spell power gain on kill nerfed. A 2-star Veigar to 1. Personally, I don't think Veigar is good at the moment. The fact that they nerf him again, it's kind of saddening to me, honestly. I don't think this unit needs another nerf. Even a 3-star nerf from 4 to 2, it's a lot. Alright, forecast champions. Ahri's health is down. Ahri's ultimate damage at 2 stars down and 3 stars down. I don't think this changes much, actually. Ahri health, it might be harder to run no GA Ahri now because of this. That's about it. The damage is not even 10% lower. Jin's 4-shot damage, another 3-star nerf. I guess they don't want 3-star forecast to be a win condition anymore, or as much of a win condition, since they're also nerfing Ribbon 3-star as well. So they're basically just nerfing all the forecast 3 stars. I'm a little bit confused by this, because without the rolling change, I mean, okay. So because they revert the shop change, I think it's gonna be almost impossible to get 4 cost 3 stars again. I don't know why they're nerfing them as win conditions. I think that is silly. But yeah, okay. They just don't want 4 cost 3 stars to be a win condition anymore. So Azir, unchanged, Kayn, getting a little bit of a nerf at 1 star. And also getting a shadow form nerf. So shadow form Kayn 1 goes from dealing roughly like 780 damage to 600 damage. It's like a 30% nerf for 1 star blue Kayn. And I think that's actually a huge nerf. Like, you can't really reliably have him like one-shot backlines anymore at 1 star with the blue Kayn. I think this is a huge nerf to Kayn. Mostly just because this nerf is so huge, right? Like, 2-star red Kayn is like literally unaffected, for example, but I think it's pretty much never worth going blue Kayn anymore, because it's just not enough of a damage boost to justify losing 50% healing. I mean, red Kayn was already better at 2-star Kayn, so... Lilia getting a nerf at 1 star, buff at 2 star. Not sure if it needed the 1-star nerf, but okay. Zilean, number of targets, buffed at 2 stars. This is actually a huge change for Zilean. I think previously, it was almost never worth 2-starring your Zilean because it was literally the same unit, basically. So it was like, almost never worth it to even really go for a Zilean 2-star. So I think this change is good. They did nerf the healing at the 2-star a little bit, like the GA, like how much health they revive with, but I think this is still an overall huge buff. Alright, so now on to some of the biggest changes, I think, of this set so far. Items. And in general, I think the theme here is that they tried to buff a ton of underused items and supportive items to try and get them up to par with the meta items. First of all, Chalice of Power going from 30 to 40 spell power. This might be one of the lesser impactful ones. Although it's still really powerful, like 40 AP in AoE on 3 units, that's really, really huge, right? It's basically like 4 Dusk buff almost for like 3 units. So Gargoyle going back to 15. In case you guys didn't know, on PBE, there were a couple PBE cycles where they tested this item, and in the start, it was 20 armor and magic resistance. It was considered the best item in the game, and then they nerfed it to 15 and then down to 12. And I think 15 is probably a good in-between. I think it's gonna be really, really strong again. I think it might be like a slam almost, because this item is becoming really strong again, I think, with 15. It's basically like a 25% buff, right? So here, Locket, also a big change here. We can see Locket shield value basically increased by 50% across the board. 1-star Locket from 250 to 350. 2-star from 300 to 450. So I think that 1 Locket, for example, is like, if you get it on 5 units, that's 2,250 life on a 2-star unit, right? So imagine you just get a random Chosen, you dump a Locket on him, and you level to 5 in the early game. Your comp is like ridiculous if you slam it. That's going to be interesting for sure. Luden's Echo now deals bonus damage to shielded or crowd-controlled enemies, similar to Static Shiv. So basically, Luden's Echo now deals 180 damage and 180 bonus damage to shielded or crowd-controlled enemies. Basically turns the damage into 360 instead of 200 against crowd-controlled enemies, which is a change that's gonna benefit some units a lot. For example, Nami. Nami was one of the best users of Ludens before, and it's gonna be even better now. For example, the main unit will always be affected by the extra damage of Ludens, right? Because it's a CC spell. If you proc it with a CC spell, like Lux or Nami, or even Teemo, right, with as a blind, it's going to deal 360 damage, which is a lot. The main users are indeed those that I just mentioned, I think. Especially the one that stands out to me the most might be even Teemo. Because Teemo can hit backliners with his spell, right? Imagine you have a double Ludens Teemo. He's gonna deal 720 damage to anyone he hits with this spell, which is going to be insane. So he can really just insta-snipe backline carries that don't have something like a Trap Claw. And even with Trap Claw, I guess they still get hit sometimes. Because of Sharpshooter. Okay, so they nerfed Quicksilver from 12 to 10. I think this is a pointless nerf, and they should not have done this. Especially because you need to start building more QSS because of the new Ludens and the shift changes. So going into those shift changes, they now made the bonus damage on Shiv 175 from 85, but they did nerf the base damage down by 10. Basically, it's going to do incredible amounts of damage to anyone who's crowd controlled, to shielded or crowd controlled enemies, which again makes some comps like a lot more viable that have like built-in CC. This also procs off Frozen Heart, by the way. A build you could think about, like, I'm going Static Shiv Aphelios 4, like double Static Shiv Rage Blade Aphelios 4, and then I'm adding like Lissandra and Morgana for Dazzler, right? So my Morgana is going to like CC the whole team with Dazzler, and then Aphelios is going to kill everything because of the extra 350 true damage on every unit, which something like that, it could just be ridiculous. Zeke's Herald getting buffed from 30 to 40%. This item was already pretty damn good, but just getting another buff because it wasn't built very often in the early game. ZZ Rot now taunts all nearby enemies at the start of combat to the wearer for 2 seconds. Okay, so basically that's just a taunt at the start of the fight, right? So you could put that on your Sejuani, for example, so it generates a little bit more mana. And also, one of the big changes here is they're making it 150 AD, more than doubling the damage of the Z0 portal. To put this into context, a Galio summoned by 3 cultists is going to be weaker than a Z0, both AD and health-wise. So that's a bit crazy, right? Like, hello? You're literally summoning a better Galio, like right away. It's crazy. This thing is gonna be so ridiculous. I think this is one of the best win streak items now, probably. Just go Cultist with Zizirot. You'll have double Galio. That sounds crazy, man. I really wonder how it's gonna play out. So yeah, like all these item changes are massive. And we're gonna see a big new item meta for sure. Alright, so a bunch of bug changes. One of the biggest ones might be Pyke. Pyke's ability now hits in front of him, allowing him to hit cornered units. So previously, if your Pyke would target a cornered unit, he would just stop in front of them without stunning them. But now he's going to stun them, which is actually a huge buff for Pyke, because that happened pretty much every fight. So Kayn no longer casts if there's no enemies in range he could hit. That's a big buff, like GA Kayn, who would just randomly spin in place with full mana. Okay, there's the Chosen bug got fixed as well. If you guys might have noticed, at some point you could buy a Chosen in your store, but it would actually be, when you buy it, it would be like a different unit, like a 1-star copy of a different unit, which is a really weird bug, and I'm glad they fixed that. So that's about it, guys. That was it for my patch review. Thanks for watching.